In today's video, we are going to revisit the 3706 V3 and we are going to be adding a storage system. We are going to be doing some water stream and storage build, but before we do that, we are going to address some of the concerns that we've had in our Discord and in some of the YouTube comments, such as they want a block by block placement of all three layers for the 3706 V3. Now, we are going to try to build it as quickly as possible, and we will be building it in survival so that you can see the steps that we take when building a farm to make it easier as opposed to just watching us zoom around in creative. So if you are here for the storage system, skip ahead. There will be timestamps to get you to where you're wanting to go. We will be building a shulker loader in a later video, so this will just cover what you see below me. If you are here for the tutorial, let's get started. We are going to build a 12 module pickle farm. In our last tutorial for the 3706 V3, we explained every single step, every step of the way. The reason that we are going to do a new tutorial is to not only show you how to build it block by block without all the commentary, but we're going to do it in survival, or at least I am. Colin is going to do part of the farm in creative, just so this video is short. Alright, and as I just said, I will be building this in survival because there are some things that you can do in creative that you can't do in survival, and I want this to be as realistic as possible. So I'm going to start off with just a few blocks. These are not exact numbers. You will have to look at the material list. We do provide it on our Discord, and we do have schematics. Alrighty, before we begin, I marked out a 19 by 19 area to work in. Now, I did do this in creative, but I will be building this in survival to show that it is quite simple. I'm going to go to the inside border of my 19 by 19 area, count out 4 blocks. Facing away from the farm, I'm going to place a piece of cobblestone. I will be building with cobblestone as my solid block, as that is an easy material to gather in survival. I will be using glass because if you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to look through glass than it is to look through a solid block. So I am also building up 1 block. In our previous tutorial, we dug down. Since we are going to be covering the water stream and storage system, I do want to elevate it up to make it a little easier in the end. So 4 blocks over, I'm going to grab my pistons and I'm going to count over 5 blocks for a total of 5 pistons, place a piece of glass, and go 5 more pistons. Once I have my pistons down, I'm going to find the center piston of the left side, which is piston number 3, turn around and count out 4 blocks. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to place a leaf down on that 4th block. I'm going to turn around and count 3 blocks, and on the 4th block, I'm going to place a piece of cobblestone. If your OCD is going to get in the way of that, you can always place it even with the one that you originally put your piston on. So 3 blocks in between each cobblestone. I'm going to place down 5 more pistons opposite of the farm, switching to my glass and back to my pistons, mirroring what I have already placed on the outside, going 5 wide. You will see that this leaf will sit 1 block below our pistons, and that will be true every time. So that's one way to line it up. On the back side of the farm, I'm going to place more pistons down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to skip it. No need to put glass there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Going to grab my leaves once again. Same exact pattern as before. 1, 2, 3. But before I place it down, I'm going to elevate it up 1 so that it is 1 block below my piston. Count out 3 more blocks, which conveniently places us at the edge, and I'm going to build up 2. That is to make sure that our opposite pistons are on the same level as our middle pistons. Switching to my glass to get my spacing correct, I'm going to finish it off, mirroring what is in the middle. I'm going to grab my building block once again, place it down with a leaf on top. Now, the water portion of it, to keep this video short, I am going to be relying on Colin to build some of this out. Before I start doing anything, I create an infinite water source. So So if you could knock those out for me, Colin, that would be great. Whoop. With my infinite water source, I am going to waterlog each leaf. And Colin is going to do the same thing on his side of the farm. With my leaf waterlogged, I'm going to switch to my coral, and I'm going to place it on top of the leaf. Once you have your coral placed down on your leaves, go to the lower side of the farm, and I use scaffolding. You can use temporary blocks, but you'll need scaffolding in the end anyway, so you should already have it. You're going to find your center piston, and you're going to place down a note block. You're going to do this on both sides, only on the outside wall. Switch back to our building block of choice, which is, for me, is cobblestone. Hop up on your note block, build out in all directions, making sure you have a solid block, one block above your note block. Go over to your your center pistons, and do the same thing, except this time we're going to put the solid blocks directly on top, which conveniently is the same level as the one we just placed over there. Grabbing my scaffolding, I'm going to do the same thing on the outside row, placing solid blocks directly on top of my pistons. The next step is to add observers. Now you can do this on any side, it doesn't matter the order. But I'm going to place a temporary block, which in my case will be scaffolding. I'm going to hop down, look up, and I'm going to make sure that there is an observer facing down all the way across. I will bridge it with a piece of glass to make it easier for myself, and go all the way. I'm going to do the same thing on all three walls. Nothing special about that outside wall, so Colin will go ahead and do that for me. It is nice to have a good pickaxe when building this farm, because as you can see, it is easy to misplace blocks. You can save this step for later, but what I'm going to do is place my rails down early. That way I don't have to worry about shifting the floor after I place the coral. So place a rail on every observer face on all three walls. Skipping the glass block, which we are going to place a solid block on top. And I should have done that on my middle wall, so Colin, if you can go ahead and do that for me. Now again, I use scaffolding for most of my build, but you can use a temporary block. Hop up on top of your coral, make sure you have a water bucket in hand, place a coral block, and quickly hydrate it. You can actually leave that temporary block, but since it is a piece of scaffolding, I'm going to grab it. And I'm going to do the same thing for my second coral block, making sure that you have water in your inventory. Now that you have your two pieces of coral, I am going to build a square around the bottom coral that is touching the leaf, starting from the face of the coral and just working my way all the way around until I have a square. I'm going to place a coral in the middle of our square on all four sides. And I'm going to do this for both sides. Now, if you do have a pickaxe with silk touch, that's the one that I would use in case you need to harvest a block that you placed erroneously. Since you have coral, I'm hoping you already have that, but it is good to have when building the farm. Now the next step is to pick a side of the farm. It doesn't matter which side. I always go opposite of my note block, and I'm going to place one block towards me on each coral that faces the center wall. And it should look like this. Skipping to the next side, I'm going to do the same thing. Placing a coral block, one block in. At this point, I'm going to switch to my glass, and I'm going to put in the corners. After you place the corner on all four sides, you will notice that you have a square surface, or I suppose a rectangle, a square surface that will have a one block gap in between your coral and the outside wall if you opted to go this direction. I'm going to grab my leaves. I'm going to place the leaves on my note block. Place the leaves on my note block. And on both sides of the leaves, I'm going to put glass. And I'm going to do this on both sides. And you can hear Colin zooming along behind me. We'll check in on him in a second. But he is doing exactly what I'm doing as I am doing it. Finish both sides of your farm in the exact same way, placing your corner blocks. Leaving that one block gap between your coral and your pistons. Now on the inside of the farm, which is where I opted to have our coral touch, I'm going to skip the coral for now. This is where our leaf block will go. Before I place leaves down, I'm going to grab my water buckets and I'm going to fill both of them. Jumping back in the farm, I'm going to place one bucket of water in between those glass blocks, following it up with a leaf, which will waterlog it, and do the same thing for the other farm. At this point, I am going to build this up on the inside wall. I'm going to jump down with my water buckets, fill them. I'm going to waterlog my leaf. And then I'm going to put glass on top. On both sides. I'm going to jump in my farm and I'm going to move to the center, and right on the outside where that gap is, make sure you don't place it too low above your piston. In that gap, we're going to start building our interior wall, and I'm going to run it until it is one block shy of the edge of my farm, finishing it off with a one block gap. If I have fence gates in my inventory, which I don't, Colin, could you grab those for me? I'm going to go to the outside walls and I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to start on the interior wall, making my way to the outside edge, leaving a one block gap, and finishing it off. Now, when I am building this in survival, I often leave the fence gates off of the outside to make it easier to get in and out of the farm. But you can place them in now if you want. There is no correct way of doing it. It's all preference. Alright, fence gates please. Thank you. At this point, I'm going to fill my water buckets. And just like in a real survival world, I do have multiple infinite water sources to make this part a little easier. The first thing we're going to do when placing our water is make the entire first layer an infinite water source. So I'm going to place a water bucket down in the corners of our glass, which will then make this outside corner an infinite water source to refill. I'm going to repeat this on all four corners. When I get to the coral, I just know that it is one block away from the outside corner, which is the glass block. And the final corner, you only actually need one because it will eventually turn into a infinite water source. Alright, now that you have an infinite water source on your first farm, you can actually use this to refill your water buckets for the remainder of your farms. I'm going to go ahead and add my fence gates now, just to keep that water contained. And if you notice, I only have one block around my farm, and that's to make it easier to get around. So in survival, I would jump over to this side and start the waterlogging on the first layer before I trap myself in a 2-block high wall where it requires pearls or another method of getting out. I'm going to grab my glass, and I'm going to start building up that outside wall to 2 blocks high, 2 blocks above the shifting floor, and I'm going to start waterlogging the farm the same way I did the first farm. Going to my corners, until I have an infinite water source. And I'm impatient. I said you only need 1 bucket, but I'm going to go ahead and do both, because it does make it a little faster. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and build this wall up where it's too high, adding my fence gate so I don't forget. Jump in and do the same thing on the opposite side, building up, adding my fence gate so I don't forget. I'm going to hop in my farm. I'm going to find the side of the farm where there is 2 solid blocks. In other words, we don't want the corner where there is a fence gate. I'm going to place a bucket of water in the corner. I'm going to refill my bucket, and I'm going to place another bucket to the right on the same wall as our waterlogged leaf. And I'm going to do this on both sides. Not the corner with fence gates, but the corner with 2 blocks. Refill my water bucket. 1 block towards the fence gate on the same wall as your leaf. Now is a good time to switch to our leaves, because we are going to place a leaf in between the coral that sticks up and the waterlogged coral. Then we're going to take that leaf and we're going to build a straight line towards our fence gate. Swapping to the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing, placing the first block in the middle and building towards our fence gate. I would highly recommend getting some shears to make it easy to retrieve your leaves. Same exact thing on the opposite side. Now this is a mirror image, so you always want to line up with the 2 blocks. Oops, don't do that. With the 2 blocks, and placing the second bucket of water towards the leaf that is waterlogged on both sides of the wall. Do the same thing, placing your leaf and building towards your fence gate. Now, if you do this part too fast, the water will not have time to elevate up, and you can actually outrun the water. So if that happens, just break the leaves and start over. You don't have to collect the water. The water will correct itself just fine. Collect those leaves. In survival, you probably don't have an infinite supply, so if they do fall out, just jump out like I did and scaffold back up. Make sure you always close your fence gates, because it is annoying to try to close them once you have the whole thing built. Switch over to your observers and find the outside wall 1 block away from our center coral. On the lower half of the farm, it's going to be the second observer looking into the observer. And you're going to do that on both sides. On the upper farm, the observer will be looking at the powered rail. Now, when we have helped people that are members in our Discord with their farms, this is the #1 problem I saw. They think that this is wrong, so they try to build down, or they try to extend their walls up. So this is going to be off-centered by 1 block, and moving forward we will call this the lower farm, and we will call this the upper or elevated farm. Go to the outside wall and do the exact same thing, placing your observers on the second position, 1 block away from your center coral. Grab your glass, start building up a roof, and I do this on both sides, because now I'm going to hop down and grab my droppers and dispensers. Again, these are not exact numbers, so don't worry when you see that many, but have a good amount because you'll need 2 droppers and 1 dispenser for each farm that you're building. Jump back in your farm, and on that back glass, for me, whatever block you're using, place it, making sure the face is looking at you, and place another one. Hop down into your farm, switch to your dispensers, look up, and make sure your dispensers face down. Do this on all 4 farms. Alright, your farm is going to look like this once you finish your droppers and dispensers. Now is the time that you want to place your pickle on top of your coral block. If you do not place your pickle on top of your coral block, you will have to break down into your roof. Depending on how many layers you have, you might have to break all the way down. The nice thing about this farm is you only have to break into one side because you can use the fence gates to hop in between the farms. Now, if you are fixing the fence gate or the pickle after the fact, if you build it up 1 block, you do have this nice path to walk in. So that's another advantage of building up 1 block. Go to your farm and put a roof on top, covering every block that is exposed. So every bit of water needs to have a block of some sort on top of it. And that is to keep the pickles contained in your farm. Once you have your roof on top, do the same thing on the upper level. There is absolutely no difference. Grab your fence gates and your building blocks, and we're going to just make sure that this is built up to the same level as the roof of our farm, so we don't forget. You do not have to have glass in between the farms, only the blocks above the water. Once you have your fence gate, which is the exit for your pickles, level with the top of your farm, you're going to go to the side of the farm with the dropper. You're going to switch to some hoppers and place a hopper into the back with a powered rail, or it doesn't even matter the rail at this point. Any rail will do. Rail on top, a block of sand above that, and a hopper minecart. Once you have your hopper, rail, minecart, sand, you're going to crouch, look at that rail, break it. The sand will clip through the hopper minecart, retrieve your rail, and go to the other side. If you leave the rail in there, that is okay. Once you turn the farm on for the first time, it will be dispensed out of the farm. However, that is the material I use, so I always collect it. Same exact thing, break the rail, watch the sand clip through the minecart, and collect whatever rail you're using. Switch back to your building block, highly recommend glass, and build a little barrier all the way around to make sure that minecart doesn't escape on you. And you're going to do this for all 4 farms. At this point, we're going to grab our leaves. We're going to place a leaf on top of each dispenser, and we're going to waterlog it. Now, you can grab your water bucket and look down into your farm and take water directly from the farm below you. It is an infinite water source, so you're not going to break anything. Before you move on, unless you want to hop down out of your farm, I would suggest grabbing 2 more buckets, switch to your coral, place a coral block on your waterlogged leaves. At this point, your farm should look like this, and this is kind of building in the exact opposite of what we first started. It is identical to the first layer, however, I always place the coral down first to make sure that my pistons are in the correct position. So switch to your pistons. On the lower farm, you can go right up to the rail. If you're far enough back on the top of the rail, if you place the piston, it will be elevated 1 block high and even with our coral. No need to use temporary blocks if you don't have to. Do this on both sides of the lower farm, and your farm should look like this. Now, we are going to be filling this gap in a moment, but I leave it free for now so I can get to the upper farm. And I'm going to place pistons on top of the pistons that I just placed. Could I get some more pistons, sir? Thank you. Now, on the outside wall, we're going to need a temporary block anyway, so I always use a piece of glass, and I do end up leaving it. So on the inside of your farm, next to your solid block, look at your rail, place a block down, which will make it catty corner, and I can't stand asymmetry if I can help it, so I put one on both sides. Grab your pistons and place them in a row of 5. This is going to be level with your coral and on the same level as the piston that we place on our center wall. At this point, you're going to grab your observers, and we are going to place our first observer right here next to our block. And unfortunately, if you place that on the upper level, you do have to break it out is the easiest way to do it, because you're going to look up right at this block that we placed to align our pistons. Look right up in the corner, making sure that the observer is looking up into the sky and powering the block below it. If you had to break out that block like I just did, go ahead and there we go. Go ahead and add it back. You're going to do the same thing on the lower side of the farm. Go to the other side, that way you don't get trapped. Crouch down. This time you're going to be looking up into the piston, the bottom piston. Just like that. On the outside wall, the exact same thing. Up into the piston, and it is the only piston, which is the bottom row. Grab your note blocks and make your way to the top of the outside wall that has the pistons on the lower farm. Find the middle piston, which is in line with your coral, and place a note block, followed by any solid block of your choice. Do the same thing on the second farm on the lower level. On the middle piston, place your note block, hop up while crouching, there we go, and place your solid blocks. Now, Colin, if you could be so kind to get me some doors, because the next thing we're going to do while we're up here, and you can do it actually from the roof of your first farm, grab your doors, and you're going to place your first door on your outside farm. Just like that. You're going to do this on both sides. To make it easy for myself to get around at this point, I build up this outside wall. You can actually leave that space empty, but I go ahead and fill it all the way up to where the only space that does not have a barrier is the one where the pistons and rails are. Now, I do build this up in a way that I can jump from my lower farm to the upper farm. So now that I'm on my upper farm, I'm going to place my solid blocks on top of my pistons, just like I did on the first layer. Hop over to your coral, hop over to the outside wall, and finish it off. Here I am going to place my door. And on top of the door, I'm going to place a block of glass. Now this does confuse people because the door is powered, and if you fall like that, just build it up the exact same way you did to get up the first time. This does confuse people, and I am going to explain this. This can be left. This does not need to be powered because we are powering the door with the solid blocks on either side of the upper side of the door. And how we're going to do that is with observers. So switch back to your observers. Colin, I'm going to need some more observers, please. Look up into your glass, and I would recommend placing these observers well before you finish your second farm, or you'll be fighting with the water, and that is never fun. Do this on both sides. I'll let Colin finish that up. Nothing fancy about that. Thank you. Do this on all 3 walls, facing the observer up into the sky and powering the block below it. The block below it is what triggers that door, so you can leave that block. It is a temporary block just to place the observer, but it does keep you from falling down in survival. So I usually just leave it. And if you are asking yourself if that can be a solid block, yes it can, because that is not going to affect the redstone in any way. Build up, place your glass on top of your door, and put your observers just like we did on the other 2 walls. Alright, now that you have your observers, which are your outside walls, and your interior wall finished, you can go up and put your rails. I typically don't do it in survival because I don't want to climb back up there until I have to, so I switch to my coral. Before I switch, I go ahead and make sure that my wall is built up too high from the roof of the lower farm. So get your fence gates and your building blocks ready and build it up 2 blocks high. Once you have your wall 2 blocks high, I typically don't fill in the side that doesn't have the fence gates. I move directly to the coral. Place a temporary block or a piece of scaffolding. This actually can remain there because it is below the coral, so whatever is easiest for you. But again, you have scaffolding for the end, you might as well use it. The water buckets that we filled earlier, we're going to use now. We're going to place down a coral block and hydrate it. Grab your scaffolding. And do the same thing for the second farm. Make sure you have your bucket with water in your hotbar so you don't kill your coral. Once you have your coral placed down, before I do anything, I do go back over and refill my water buckets, and I can do that from this small gap right here. Which we will use in a moment. Build your square all the way around your coral, adding a block in the middle of all 4 sides. Extend your coral by 1 block and add your corners. Now, as you can see, the water is not spilling over because we have not lifted it up yet, so you can go ahead and finish off your corner blocks without having to worry about the water spilling out. Move to the second farm. Place your coral down, extending it out by 1. Your corner blocks will always be in this pattern: 1, 2, and 3. So if your corner blocks do not look like that, that means that you have something wrong with your coral that you need to address before moving on. Once we have our shape that looks like this, we are ready to put walls down. And so just like before, I am only building up 1 just to make it easier to get around. Always put a fence gate on a fence gate. Now, once you get to the interior wall, you don't have to worry about filling anything underneath. Just make sure that it is that 1 block high, like so. So now we have our perimeter laid out. We're going to switch to the corners again, only putting blocks on your corner pieces, leaving the coral completely exposed so we don't kill it. Place your leaves on your note block. Now if you are in the upper farm, you're going to place the leaves on the center block below the observer, so that is going to be your solid block. It is the exact same position on all 4 farms, but the outside farm is really easy to identify because of the note block. Place glass on either side. Now that we have this shape here, we do not want to put the leaf on yet because we need an infinite water source. And since we're up on the farm, we're going to go ahead and do that in this corner. Place your buckets of water on the 2 corner blocks and pull from the furthermost corner block and waterlog your leaf and place a bucket of water on this coral to then place a leaf which is now waterlogged. Do the same thing we did on the first level, placing a water bucket on every corner, refilling our water bucket. This is just less trips that you have to take up and down. Now you can place this in any order that you want now that we have an infinite water source next to us, but do not forget to waterlog the leaves. We saw several farms last week while helping our Discord members that had dead coral because they forgot to waterlog the leaf. Make an infinite water source on your second farm. Fill up your water buckets, and let's add the second level of our wall. You can go ahead and start all the way at the end and work all the way towards the opposite side. Making sure that you only put blocks up to the fence gate because, as always, we're putting a fence gate on top of the fence gate. Make this a nice square all the way around, placing the fence gate on the fence gate. Now, it is always important, whether in Minecraft or elsewhere in life, to double check your work. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Because the last thing I want to do is build this all the way up to find out that I have something broken on level 1 or on level 2. So I'm going to go to the side of the farm that is at my starting position, which is the side where the coral is touching. I'm going to make sure that both of my farms are on the same side. So my coral is touching on the left side. Walking to the edge, my coral is touching on the left side. So this is the starting position. I'm going to place down my rails, skip that glass block, place down my rails. If your shifting floor is still in line and shift it over to the inside wall, you have done everything correctly. So place your rails all the way across. This is where you can double check your first side to make sure it shifted backwards, and it has. It has also shifted the lower level out. Make sure everything is lined up. And then place your rails. And now your farm is in the starting position, with the exception of the topmost farm. So this is going to happen on farm 2 and farm 3. Until we have a redstone signal transmitted across the rails, your farm is going to look off, and that is okay. We had a lot of people asking questions about this. This is normal, and it will correct itself once we provide a redstone signal. Hop down into your farm, place a water bucket in the corner, move one block to the right towards your fence gate, refill your water buckets, and do the same thing in reverse from the outside in, making sure that second bucket of water is towards your leaves. Place your leaf down going towards your fence gate on the interior and on the exterior walls. Switch back to your shears and collect all those leaves, because we will use them again and again and again. And that's one of the problems. If I really wanted to, I would go down and get that leaf, but I'm going to let it slide for now because I have enough. But we know our farm is working, so that's the good news. Refill your water buckets and do the same thing on your second farm. Alright, now that all of our farms have had the water manipulated to exit towards the fence gates, pushing all of those pickles into our storage system, I'm going to hop up to the upper side of the farm, place down a solid block in between each rail. I'm going to grab my observers and repeat the exact same steps that we did on the first level. Placing observers on the bottom level into the second observer, which is one block away from the center coral. And I'm going to do that on both sides, always putting the observers on the second observer closest to the outside wall. On the upper farm, again, and as always, the observer will be looking into the rail. Grab your building block of choice and start your farm, leaving a gap for your droppers. Do this on all outside walls. Grab your dropper and your dispenser. And build out just like we did on the first level. And if you get a little bit too antsy like I just did, break your dispenser, because you want to make sure that your dispenser is facing down into the coral that contains the source pickle. Place the dropper on all 4 farms facing in, with the dispenser facing down. Grab your pickle, because you don't want to have to break back in, and refill your water buckets. The safest place to refill your water buckets is always by the fence gates, because we know there is no water that we can mess up here. If you do it on the corner, you're probably going to hit this top water block, so don't do that. And Colin, if you could, sir, I do need some more glass. It is always good to build with a friend, that way they can collect things for you. As Colin is getting my glass, I am going to switch to my hoppers. Thank you, Colin. And I'm going to place a hopper in the back of my droppers on all 4 farms. While Colin finishes off the roof for me, I'm going to go ahead and place the droppers on his, or the hoppers rather, on his droppers. Get your rails and your sand ready, as well as your minecart with hopper. Place a rail on top of the hopper by crouching, placing the sand on the rail and the hopper minecart in between. Crouch down, break that rail, and retrieve it from the dropper. This is the exact same steps that we did on the first level, so after I finish this off, I'm going to let Colin do the remaining 3. I'm going to start layer 3 by placing my leaf on the dispenser, because all of the farms are built directly straight up from each other. Okay. Colin is going to encase the hopper minecarts, and while he's doing that, I'm going to go up and add my glass to my fence gates, making sure that they are level. This time, however, I am going to skip the middle block until we get closer, so I can crouch and place the observer facing up. Grab your glass, go to the outside of your farm, and place it on the rails next to your solid block. Switch to your pistons, build 5 pistons over in both directions. On the lower part of the farm, again, we're going to place the pistons down on the rails on both sides. Now, normally I place both the uppers and lowers at the same time, but this is a good view to show the elevation difference and that the piston is above our leaf, so we know that we are building it correctly. Finish off the upper layer pistons by placing them on top of the lower layer pistons. We are going to switch to our observer, and we're going to crouch into the corner like we did before, looking up at that temporary block, with the observer looking up in the sky and powering the block below it. And I misclicked. At this point, we can then place our glass on either side of our fence gate and finish off the exit with a fence gate. The reason we do that is so pickles don't fall and collect on top of the one below it. I'm going to do the same thing for my middle farm, except instead of a temporary block, it is the piston on the middle and on the opposite end. This is where you can build up to hop onto your outside wall of pistons, grabbing your note blocks and placing them in the middle. Grab your building blocks and build a platform, 1 block above and above each piston. Trying to be smooth and I messed it up. Now, there is nothing special about the upper farm. So Colin is going to go ahead and place the solid blocks on top of the pistons, and he's going to do that on the outside wall and on the inside wall. If you were in survival, that probably would have hurt really bad, so don't fall off like that. The leaves on our dispensers, we're going to waterlog them to keep our coral nice and hydrated. And we can go ahead and place our coral blocks on top. Now the upper farm and the lower farm have the coral placed on the waterlogged leaves. Now you're going to do what we did on the second level. Build up just so we can get to the top of your wall. And you're going to grab your door, place it on the observer, and put a glass block on top. You're going to do this on all three walls, placing the door on the observer and placing a glass block on top. Now, I would highly advise that you do this step first. Too many tutorials have you place the water before placing the observers, and then you have to fight the water stream, and that's no fun. So just place your observers looking up into the sky, or the top of your base, with the redstone output powering the block below it. Do this for all three walls. Make sure that there is no gap next to your hopper, so as you're building up to get to your lower level farm, that's a good time to check. Alright, break out your temporary block, and it's time to place our coral. And as you can see, I only have one water bucket. Grab your temporary block. Again, mine is going to be scaffolding. Jump to the center coral, place down a coral with a water bucket in hand, and immediately place the water. If you don't want the water to exit your farm, go ahead and build up the outside walls 2 blocks above the roof of your second level. Keeping in mind that you do not have to do anything in the interior wall except for the 2 blocks on either side of the fence gate and of course the fence gate. And since I've been using that to get up and around, this wall is just about complete, so we're going to finish it off. Switch back to your temporary block, hop up, jump on your coral, place another block of coral, and place water on top of that. Now, if you did need more water, you can always go right up into the corner next to the fence gate, aim down, and pull water from that infinite water source below. I would do this before the next step, which is adding the coral, going all the way around the second, or rather bottom coral, placing a center coral all the way around until we create the same shape that we start off with for most of our shifting floor farms. Now I know which side I'm going to be building on, so since I'm already back here, I'm going to place my corners. And I'm going to go to the front side, extending each coral block by 1, and finishing up the corners with glass. Now, since this is the last and final farm, the method that I've been using to place it is not necessarily how I do it. I just think it's easier to explain it that way. I go out 2 blocks. I come in 2 blocks. And I do this all the way over. So you have 2 rows of 5. Then you have your row of 3 and 1. Then I go to the back side and do a row of 3 and 1. Finishing off my corners with glass. Alright, now that the water is about to be contained, it's currently flowing to our second level, so let's go ahead and build this up 1 more block so that when we add the exterior wall, the water doesn't go everywhere. Oh, and apparently it is anyway, because I forgot the fence gates on the fence gates. And now you can see why I hammer that home, because it is such an easy thing to miss and to forget, and then you have to climb up and add it, especially if it's the middle of your farm. Build up 2 blocks next to your fence gates, adding your fence gates, and carrying the wall all the way to the door. Grab your leaves, you should still have plenty. Place it on top of the note block with a glass block on either side, extending to the walls. Jump over to the other farm, doing that process all over again. Oh, and I fell. That can happen, and that's another reason I use scaffolding, so I can always get back up. Make sure all your fence gates are closed, and that's why it's important to add a fence gate on the fence gates. Now, again, and as always, do not place anything on that coral until we have water to waterlog the leaf. Go ahead and build up the outside walls too high from above the 3rd farm. And we are going to switch to our, too high. We're going to switch to our water, placing it in each block next to the corner, grabbing from the infinite water source in the corner, and now we can place our leaf. Go ahead and waterlog the other side, and refill your buckets. And you can see that it is easy to do from on top of the wall if you don't want to be inside the farm. I just think it's easier to demonstrate, that way you have no doubt at which block I am looking at. Now, if you have trapped yourself in the farm, remember, just open your fence gates and jump to the other side. All right. Now all 4 farms have the first layer converted into an infinite water source. We are ready to do the water manipulation. Picking any farm, placing 2 water buckets, 1 in the corner, 1 towards the fence gate, refilling our water buckets, and doing the same thing in reverse. Switch to your leaves and build towards the outside of your farm. And if you place too fast or you misplace, you don't have to collect that. Simply break the leaf and add it back. And if it doesn't elevate, break both leaves and then add it back. If you want to make sure that the leaves don't fall in like you saw me do previously, stand in the fence gate because the water is flowing towards us, and that's exactly how the pickles escape, so we might as well use that to our advantage. Do the same thing on all 4 farms. There we go. Alright, we are ready to start putting the roof on again. So we can switch to our rails. And as stated previously, this is a good time to double check your work, knowing of course that the top layer of your farm is not going to shift completely. But we can make sure that the bottom 2 layers look good, which both corals line up, so they do. Move to the center farm, and then the outside of your lower farm. Now, if the farm shifts really wonky like this, again, that is because of the quasi-connectivity, so don't worry about that. As soon as we send a redstone signal, that will all be corrected. Grab your solid blocks, go ahead and place them in between the rails. Switch to your observers and repeat the same steps from the first 2 farms, with the observers on the second to the last observer on the lower level on both sides, and the rail on the upper level on both sides. Take glass or whatever your roof material is, leaving a gap for your droppers. Do this on all 4 sides. Switching to your droppers and dispensers. And double checking along the way that the droppers are facing into the dispenser and that the dispenser is facing down. Also making sure that these outside 2 are droppers and not dispensers, and making sure the inside is a dispenser and not a dropper. Grab your pickles and place a pickle on each coral block. Then we're going to cap it off, making sure that every exposed block of water has a roof on it, so the pickles don't pop out of the farm. Switch over to your hoppers and place a hopper in the back of your droppers. And you'll do this on all 4 farms. Grab your rails, place a rail on your hopper, with sand on top of the rails. And Colin's going to go place the hopper with minecart down for me. I'm going to hop down and I'm going to break out the rails, making sure I collect them out of the dropper as I go. Now, this is the 3rd layer of the farm, so we are going to only build up right next to the hopper minecart. We're going to stay even with the block of sand, we are not going to build the roof over top of it like we did in layers 1 or 2. So just do that on the upper and lower side, leaving the top of the hopper minecart off. We are going to start building our switch at this point, or our wiring up the redstone. And the way I'm going to do that is by placing a temporary block on the on the rail, just like we did when we were placing our piston. I'm going to face an observer down. I'm going to do the same thing on every single solid block that is sitting in between our rails. Once you have your observers facing down into the solid block, we are going to go to the side of the farm. That is the starting position, which is where the coral is touching our pistons. We are going to hop on top of that temporary block, and we are going to look away from the farm, because we want the face of the observer looking away. So we can actually probably do it from back here, would be easier. Just like that. And we're going to do this on the outside, the middle wall, and the furthest outside wall. And actually, this will probably be easier if I crouch, go right up to the edge, and jump until I can see just enough of it to place the observer. And just like that. Grab some glass blocks, and off of the middle of observer, the one facing down into the solid block, we're going to place 4 blocks of glass. And we're going to take the next 2 blocks and make it level with the floor, or 1 block below the blocks that we just placed. And the reason that is a special call out is because the lower farm, it is going to be the same thing, 4 blocks off of the observer facing down, but this time it's going to be 1 block above our floor, as long as it only has a single block drop from the middle wall. We're going to switch over to our rails, and we're going to place them all the way until we get to the first block that is below the 4 blocks that we placed. We're going to face an observer into the rail. There should be a 1 block gap in between the observer we just placed and our center wall. And we're going to repeat that on our next farm. So it should look like this. Colin has some trapdoors in his hand, which he's going to throw to me. And I'm going to go to my position where I place the observer, and I'm going to look at the top of the observer and place it, making sure that the top of the observer is level with the top of the trapdoor. And we're going to do this on both sides. Oh. Now, I said that you had to have scaffolding at the end. The scaffolding that you need is 2 per farm. So place your scaffold on the observer that is facing the trapdoor, and place the second one into the next observer. And we're going to do this on both sides. So you do have to have a minimum of 4 scaffolds when building a 12 module. So just make extras to make your building a lot easier. We're going to jump on top of the observer facing away from the farm, and we are going to build a little platform 2 blocks away, and in either direction, it doesn't matter which one. We're going to build a 6 block total, so a 2x3 with a block closer to the farm, so we can do our redstone comparator clock. Now we will do that in a moment. Let me just hop over here so you can see if you're building along with this tutorial to see if you have everything looking exactly like we do. Alright, that is the core farm complete. The next step is to build the auto crafter. I will continue to build this in survival. Colin will be building the other side. These are identical. The only difference is the sides are mirrored. So I will call those differences out, but let's go ahead and get started on the auto crafter. This is not a complete list of what you'll need, or rather it is an overly complete list of what you need. These are not exact numbers, but you will need quite a few items, and it's best to have them all in your inventory so you don't have to go up and down, and always scaffolding is your friend. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our lowest hopper, so the bottom farm, and we're going to count down 2 blocks, so 1, 2, and place a piece of soul sand. You're going to do the same thing on both sides. This is a lower farm, so the soul sand will be closer to your player, and this one will be 1 block up. Just know that the build is identical all the way up to the top. The only difference is the overflow protection, and I will call that out. After you place your soul sand, place 2 pieces of packed ice going away from your fence gates. So if your fence gates are on the other side, you would go towards the middle of the farm. And when you build these out, the opposite side is going to be a mirror image if you built the farm correctly. So as you can see on this side, the soul sand is still under the hopper, but the packed ice is going to the left, whereas this one is going to the right. Grab your building blocks. I am using glass. Go to the side with your soul sand and up diagonally place a building block. Go out 1, turn, and go until you extend beyond the packed ice by 1. And we're going to do this on all 4 sides. Now Colin is going to be building the other side, but again, it is identical. This is a good time to get out your scaffolding, and I always build up my scaffolding right in front of my fence gates. That seems to be the best place for it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some stairs. I've already got them in my hotbar. And in that gap, you can either look left or right, but in that gap that we left, right above your packed ice, place a stair. You're then going to build up 1 more level with your building blocks. Grab your stairs once again. Turn around. It's going to be 1 block over from your first stair. You're going to jump and place it. Make sure that it is facing your farm. Hop down. Now you're going to grab some leaves. The leaves are going to go 1 block over from your top stair, right to the right of your hopper minecart. Just like that. Hop down into your farm. You're going to grab your fence gates. And it looks like I didn't grab fence gates. So Colin, when you get a second, come drop me some fence gates. You're going to grab an auto crafter. The auto crafter is going to sit right in front of the thank you for the fence gates. The auto crafter is going to sit right in front of your stairs. So hop in with your leaf on your left and your stairs on your right and behind you. Place the crafter facing down right above the leaf. Whenever I place down a crafter, I inevitably forget to put my recipe in there. So even though I'm not ready to load it with anything yet, I am going to set it for bone meal, which is disabling all slots except 1. It can be any slot, but you still have to have 1 available, or you will not be crafting bone meal. So now that we have our crafter, our 2 stairs, and our leaf, I'm going to grab my fence gates that Colin brought over for me. I'm going to place 1 down right in front of my soul sand and open it. And the next one I'm going to place directly below my upper stair, which is directly above and in front of my lower stair. I'm going to open that as well. I'm going to hop out, and I'm going to grab a bucket of water. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to waterlog my leaf. And then I am going to grab my building block. I'm going to build up 1 block all the way around until I get to my stairs. I'm going to go ahead and build up, covering the bottom stair. And since I've been building with just 2 buckets, I only have 1 bucket left that has water in it, so I'm going to waterlog the upper stair. And then I'm going to hop down on my scaffolding, refill my buckets, and head right back on up. Now I'm going to build up 1 more because I have a higher platform now. And I actually could have done this from down there, but I'm going to waterlog that lower stair as well. Now we have to build our bubble column, so we are going to start on the leaf or any of the 3 blocks that will make up the 4 walls. 4th wall being the wall with the hopper mine carts. And I'm going to just double check to make sure that no blocks are missing on the upper wall, which they are not. So I'm going to start building up, and I always build up 3 blocks because you can crouch and easily reach the others. And I'm just going to do this all the way up to the top. Once you get to the top, stop when you are level with the sand. Grab another stair and place it on the back column facing your farm. And then add 2 pieces of glass on the side. And I don't have enough glass, so Colin, whenever you get a second, can you bring me some glass, please? Once you are up here, you are going to waterlog the stairs. That is going to drop down to your soul sand. And that is where you are going to... Oh, you threw those right in the hopper minecart. That's okay. I'll grab them right out. So we're going to grab our 2 blocks, building blocks to contain that water. And I do need a roof on this, but I'm not going to do it yet because I will get trapped. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my kelp. And I don't have enough kelp. Colin, I need you again. Kelp, please. Big old stack of kelp because we got stuff to build. And did you know that I need cactus too? Because I need cactus. Alright, I'm going to hop down. And I'm going to build a tall tower of kelp starting at the soul sand going all the way down. Once you can no longer plant kelp, you know you've reached the top. We're going to hop back down. We're going to break the bottom kelp. And if you did it right, you shall shoot to the top. Now, unfortunately for you, your cactus isn't going to be sitting there when you get up, unless you place it there before, or unless you have a good partner like I do. Grab the cactus that should have been in your inventory and place it on the sand. You cannot have a block next to the cactus or it will break, so just be sure that you leave the 2 blocks to the left and the right of the sand open and just have your cactus on top. Now you're going to put a roof over your bubble column, or your bone meal will just shoot right up once the hopper minecart is full. If you don't top off your cactus, the cactus will continue to grow, and every time it grows it will break off because of the block above it. If you don't want cactus clogging up your pickle farm, go ahead and put a block of glass on top. Now, if you are storing it in just normal chests, that may not be an issue, but if you're using a shulker loader, a single piece of cactus can break your shulker loader because it will never have the full 15 redstone strength to break the shulkers. And now that we are done with the tower and our crafter, I'm going to hop down. If you have a pearl, now's a good time to use it, but I have some scaffolding over here that I left earlier when I fell down. And that's what our crafting system will look like. We are going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to build up next to my fence gate. Just a few blocks, and you can use temporary blocks. You don't have to use scaffolding. It just is easier for me. Place your stair down. Build up 1 block again, all the way around. Grab your leaf. Place it to the right of your hopper minecart, and have your stairs directly in between the bottom stair and level and to the right of the leaf that we just placed down. Hop down with your fence gates, place one in front of your soul sand, and place one in front of your stairs. Directly above your leaf, you're going to place a crafter, even with your back stairs, and disable all but one slots. Once you have done that, we can build up one more block. And if you did not already get water, now's the time to refill your buckets. I'm going to go ahead and do that one now since I can reach it. And I'm going to do that one. That way I have 2 buckets so I don't have to go back down again. Waterlog your leaf, and the inside of your crafting system should be done. So let's put glass blocks on top of your stairs and move on to the bubble column. Doing the same thing, not doing that. We'll break out over here. Doing the same thing as before. Build up on your leaf, 1, 2, 3, and build the tower just like we did on the other side. Thanks for the assist. Alright, with your stairs in your hand, look at that back column again. Place it facing the farm with 2 blocks of glass, and on the other side 2 blocks of glass. Grab your water, waterlog your stairs, and hop down and make your bubble column. Once you can no longer place kelp, you know you're at the right height. Go down, break it, and ride that bubble column to the top. Now, items will probably make it in the dropper, so now's a good time to check it and retrieve it if you don't want it in your storage system. Grab your cactus, place it on top, and then cap it off with the roof. Now we're going to do a comparator of the hopper, not the hopper minecart, of the hopper to power the overflow protection. So what we're going to do, we're going to break out the block directly 1 block below our hopper minecart to where we expose our hopper. If you built out of solid blocks, you do not need to do that step. But if you built out of glass, you do need to replace it with a solid block. Turn around, grab a comparator, hop up, place a comparator down, and directly in front of your comparator, build down 2 blocks, replacing the bottom block with a solid block. You're going to place a piece of redstone on the solid block, and then you're going to place a solid block on top of that. Now for our comparator reading, we only want it to turn off when it is at a full capacity of bone meal, so I'm going to break out the block right next to it and put a redstone block off of the comparator, which will be easier to do on this side. And that'll make sure that this only activates when the hopper is completely full. Now, if we can reach, I'm not sure that I can, so I'm going to go ahead and build a temporary block right off the side, just like that. Hop down and build it 1, 2, away from your crafting system. So it's going to be on the outside of your farm. You're going to place down 2 pieces of redstone, and we can hop down from there. Grab a sticky piston, look up into the outside block with the furthest redstone line reaching, and place your sticky piston. Grab an observer, and you are going to place an observer into the redstone component that is even with the block underneath your sticky piston. So on the other side, this is the one difference between the 2 systems. On the lower farm, the observer is going to face into the observer. On the upper farm, it's going to face into the rail like this. And that will make more sense when we do the other side. So grab a solid block, place it on that sticky piston, And now we're going to wire it up to our crafter. You're going to go 2 blocks up from your crafter, so go right up to the corner, crouch down if it makes it easier, and place an observer face up. Come out to the side. You can't be standing on the block next to the crafter, so it doesn't need to be diagonal. Crouch to the side, hop up, place an observer, and then place another observer facing down. So you're going to have 2 building blocks, or solid blocks, underneath each observer. And now to finish the wiring, we are going to wire it up with the rail, and I'm not quite able to reach it, so let's go ahead and hop up one more and place 2 rails. So every time that farm fires, this crafter will now fire twice. And to tidy up, I'm going to remove it. I had scaffolding, but I was too lazy to get it out. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. The crafter is on the inside of the farm, so our build will be on our middle column. So I'm going to go ahead and start up at the top, just like I did on the elevated side, climbing up my scaffolding to begin. So opposite of the fence gates, we're going to break out the block in front of the hopper, replacing it with a solid block. Grab your comparator, break down 2 blocks. If they are glass, if they are solid blocks, you only need to break down 1. I'm going to place your solid block, redstone, and solid block. Break out the block next to your comparator and replace it with a redstone. Now, I may be able to reach this one. We'll see. I'll grab my glass and see if I can reach the block right below, and I can, yes. So we're going to place 2 blocks. So hopping down, this is going to be directly in front of the solid block with the redstone, going out towards the piston wall. Place 2 pieces of redstone and hop down on your crafter. Grab your sticky piston. Same as before, looking up. This time, however, you will see that the observer is level with the bottom side of our piston. So if you have the observer facing into your piston, it'll just make that piston go crazy. So make sure that the observer is directly below the sticky piston, which will have a solid block on front, and if you recall, is 1 block lower than the other side. Grab your observers, which I already have. So let's do that. And place it up 1 block above your crafter. Jump looking 1 block away from there. And the final one looking down. Place both solid blocks underneath. And because I have it, I'll use it. Grab my scaffolding, build up 1, 2, break it, and we are done with our crafting system. Because I don't want to hop down, I am going to go ahead and do my chests now. I'm going to place a hopper into my crafter, and this is a good time to double and triple check that you have your crafting recipe ready. So open up your crafter, mine is good, so go ahead and close it. Once you have your hopper in, this is how I do it. You can do it however you want, but the easiest method for me is to place a chest, convert it to a double chest, and then place a chest before I place the hopper. And then I follow that pattern all the way up. And the reason I do that is because a chest is actually slightly smaller than a full block. So I'm trying to place the hopper right now, and I can't. I could do a little bunny hop and place it that way, but more often than not, I end up facing it down just like that, even though I tried really hard. So what I end up doing is tower up 1 and place the hopper before continuing on with my chests. And I don't have a pickaxe with me, so I'm going to move to the other one while Colin goes and fixes that. Again, starting off, hopper into the crafter, double checking the crafter. Chest, and if I didn't mention it the first time, I'm mentioning it now. Go towards your bubble column on your first chest. Hop up, hopper, chest, chest, hopper, chest. And just do this pattern over and over, zigzagging back and forth, making sure that the hopper is always looking into the chest below. And when you get to the end, I always carry it all the way through since I build with glass, and I usually do this. I put a temporary chest, put another chest making it double, and then place the hopper. And you can extend this out if you wanted to. You would just double everything on front like this, carrying it all the way down. I'm not going to be going over that in this video, but you can double it up. If you double it up, all you need to know is you place the bottom chest into, or the bottom hopper into the hopper going into your crafter, and you just double that up all the way down. And that is the bone storage and auto crafter. Let's go check Colin's work, see how he did. And remember, I was in survival, so if his is fully complete, which it is, it looks good. Kudos to Colin. But the only difference on Colin's side was it is mirrored. So his crafting system went to the left and ours went to the right. But everything is exactly the same. Alright, now that we have a crafting system, this farm is fully functional. All we have to do is load it up with bones or bone blocks. Do not load it up with bone meal or you'll be crafting white dye. And our farm is completely built and ready to go. We can't turn it off without some kind of clock. We're going to build one of the easiest clocks in Minecraft, and that is the comparator clock. The comparator clock is simple to build, so let's go ahead and start on it. We are going to place 2 pieces of redstone on the 2 blocks of glass in front of your observer. Directly behind the redstone, we are going to place 1 repeater facing towards the redstone and another one facing away. We are going to grab a comparator, face it into the repeater looking at your 2 pieces of redstone, place a piece of redstone to the side, and add a lever or some source of redstone output behind your comparator. Place your comparator in subtract mode and put both of your repeaters on a redstone tick of 2 by right-clicking it once, and your farm is ready to go. So before we can start it, we really need a place to store the pickles, and so that's what we're going to move on to next, the water stream and the storage system. To start on our storage system, we are going to find our exits. Now on this farm, I opted to build them on the same side, meaning when I look at the farm, they are both on my left. If you are coming here from the previous tutorial and you're just wanting to build a storage system, this will be the exact same. Just know that the exit for the outside farm is going to be towards your middle, and the exit towards the inside of your farm is going to be on the outside. So your outside is going to be a little longer on this storage system as far as the water stream, but you can build it exactly the same and you'll get the same results. So that is the one difference if you're coming from the other tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go to the middle of the farm first because I am going to direct all of my pickles to the back of the farm opposite of my switch. Now how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use the space that I left underneath my farm, and I'm going to break out all those blocks in between my pistons because we don't need them and I can walk freely. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my fence gate, and right here where I have placed blue blocks, we want to make sure that if you built this farm and you did not extend this all the way down, like I apparently did not, we do want to put a couple blocks here just to make sure that the pickles don't fly out of your water stream if there's too much momentum. Now I'm probably going to cap this off all the way down, so you only need to do this if you have a water stream that is going horizontal with your farm, but we are going lengthwise, so really this doesn't matter. Once you have your fence gate exit identified, I'm going to, as I just said, probably, I am going to do it. I'm going to go right below my fence gate and build a glass wall all the way down. Now, if your OCD gets to you like mine does sometimes, and you have this temporary blocks here, you can remove anything under the level of the leaves and under your pistons if you so choose to. I'm doing it just to tidy it up a little bit, and so we can see both sides when we get our water stream built. So we are going to build our glass down, and once we do that, I'm going to dig out a channel. Now your base is probably not netherite. My base is definitely not netherite. If you watch Colin's live stream, it feels like we have enough netherite to do this now. Isn't that right, Colin? Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. So, underneath my fence gate exit, I'm going to just place a row of packed ice. It does not need to be packed ice the whole way. I just like the way it looks. But go watch our water stream basics video to see why you don't need to make it all the way packed ice. And I will point out the blocks that you do need to have packed ice. But for now, I'm going to do that just because, again, I like the way it looks. Now, once you have your packed ice, we're just going to run a wall, and Colin will do that over there, 1 block high, all the way to this back column, if you want to call it that. And now our pickles can only fall straight down into our water stream, which I will start now with a bucket of water. Water streams, or water in general, can only flow a maximum distance of 8 blocks. So once you get to that 8th block, you have to place a barrier. If you don't place the barrier and you just add more water, it'll just flow back on itself, which will not be good. So we have to place a barrier before we can place another bucket of water. Now don't build along with me just yet, because this is not the place to do the barrier, because if we look up, that is directly underneath our next exit. So make sure whenever you place a barrier that it is not under an exit of your pickle farm. We are going to actually go 2 blocks back, and I'm going to be using fence gates so it doesn't show up on pie chart. You can use anything that we showed in our water basics video. Rails is something that you could also use, but go ahead and make sure that if you use fence gates to open it up. Once you have your fence gate open or your barrier placed down, we are going to place a bucket of water 1 block in front, and that will continue the water stream without flowing back on itself. Now, the pickles sometimes have enough momentum to fling this way, so if you were to just start your water stream here and you had your barrier 1 block behind, there is a slight chance that the pickles could get stuck. That's why I opt to do it 2 blocks back. Take your blue stained glass or whatever you're building with and continue that wall underneath your lower farm all the way until you reach the border. Just like that. And that's where we'll stop for now. If your farm is not elevated up by 1 block like we did in this tutorial, the shifting floor actually will act as the wall. So you would just place your packed ice and use the walls. If you do that, make sure you don't place anything in between your piston and your shifting floor, or your farm will break. So that is the center water stream completed. Let's move to the outside. Now these are going to be identical, so Colin will do the right side, I will do the left side. We're going to find our exit once again, and on the same side, we're going to build a wall all the way to our netherite floor. Once we do that, we're going to dig a channel just like we did in the middle, and we're going to exit in the exact same spot. We're going to go back, and facing the inside of your farm, we're going to place a wall of blue stained glass all the way, or whatever material you're using. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Grab your packed ice and run it all the way. Again, it doesn't need to be packed ice all the way, but it does need to be in the location that your barrier is sitting. So whenever there is not flowing water, that is the best time to use packed ice because items will skate across. You can use normal blocks, but on the off chance that an item does go sideways, you would want to make sure that your empty spot has enough slide ability. I'm not really sure what to call that, but it'd be enough ability to skate right across that blue or the packed ice, and that's why we opt to do it. Same thing here as in the middle of the farm. We place the fence gate 2 blocks back and place the flowing water 1 block behind. So if those pickles do exit with momentum to the side, the furthest they could go is in the flowing water. And that's how we get all the pickles to the back of the farm. Now, the benefit of packed ice is so you can see the outline of where we are placing our water streams a little easier, but we are going to use it to our advantage here in a moment. So let's go ahead and connect these streams together. So I'm just going to break out the block right in front of the packed ice until we reach the middle. Grab your fence gates, and on our border, on all 3, we're going to stop the water short at the border. So 1 block behind your pistons. And then we're going to connect all of our packed ice just like this. Now, if you know how to build water streams and you're just here for the storage aspect of it, this does not have to be done in this way, as you are well aware. There's multiple ways of doing it. We are just doing the one that is the easiest to follow with as few turns and connections as possible. So place your bucket in front of your fence gate. That will stop the water from flowing, but we do need to place fence gates here anyway. So if Con would get out of my build zone, there we go. We can place the fence gates and open them. Placing another bucket of water right in front of this fence gate, and now we have our exit. So items will flow from this side of the farm, they'll skate across the packed ice, and they will exit. So they are going to exit right here, and we will place another fence gate like so, which means that we need another block of packed ice. Now, if you saw what the bucket of water was doing, this may happen to your pickles. They may skate across if they have enough momentum, but because of where we place the water, they should slow down and hit the larger water stream. But if you see them going back and forth, they will eventually slow down and exit the farm. Now that we have our exit, we need to build the bubble column. And we're going to do that right at the end of our packed ice. So let me fly up so you can kind of see our exit so far. And again, this is much larger than it needs to be, and that's because we're going to do a storage system that is the entire length of the side of our farm. So just change this to fit your base needs. Grab your material to build a column up and build it up. We're going to go 8 blocks high with our storage system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This will be the top of our storage. So this is going to be where the water will exit. So build up 8 blocks and just give yourself a little platform to know where your water is going to go. Place a block on top of your fence gate and build up to that 8 blocks. Now this is where we are going to build an additional one block on the side that is opposite of our exit. And I'm going to put a little barrier here because we're about to place water on the 9th block. So right there, which will cause the water to flow out. Grab yourself some kelp. Whenever you plant kelp in flowing water, it will convert to a source water block. And to make a bubble column, you do need source water, or you'll just sit here at the bottom of the farm, and so will your pickles. So build it all the way to the top, and hop back in, swim down, and break the bottom kelp. And that will turn it into a bubble column. Very cool. Now, if you were to leave this bubble column as is, Colin's going to hop out of the way so he doesn't collect the pickles. I'm just going to throw some pickles in. Actually, Colin, if you want to throw them in from that side, we'll just throw them in from 2 spots. Throw some pickles in if you want to test it out. Make sure that your bubble column's working. But one thing that I want you to see is these pickles are going to go flying if you don't put a roof on. So on top of your bubble column, place a roof. It doesn't have to be a full block like this. It can just be 1 or 2. If you want to encase it all the way, you certainly can. Sometimes I like to, just to make sure that if I'm mining anything in the future, that items don't fall into the stream and clog my storage. But that's entirely up to you. So now I'm going to take this all the way until my water stops flowing, and I'm going to put blocks on either side, just like that. Now we are going to do some item aligning, and to item align, we are going to implement some of the tricks that we showed you in our Water Stream Basics tutorial. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with item aligning, now's a good time to pause and go check that video out. But for now, we are going to build up our storage system. So I'm going to come to the front of my farm and just on the outside of the border, and I'm going to place a double chest. And I am going to do this all the way to the back of my farm, one shy of the border. And Colin is going to come here and do the opposite side, because once we have our chests down, we are going to take hoppers. Apparently he really didn't want to build a storage system. Welcome back, Colin.
I'm back.
Place hoppers into the sides of your double chest, all the way to the end. You're going to leave a gap, and you're going to place another row of double chests. And Colin will go ahead and start that for me. And I'm going to place hoppers into the back of those. Now this is going to be the base of our storage system. The reason we built our bubble column 8 blocks tall with the exit at the 9th block is because we are going to build a storage system that is 8 chests tall. Now to do that, we're going to go to the front of our farm again with our double chests. You do have to crouch to place a chest on top of a chest, and you do have to look at the side of the chest that you're wanting to turn into a double chest. So if you're constantly opening it, or if your chests end up looking like this, crouch, go to the side, and place it like you would on a normal flat surface. Do this all the way until you reach the end. And as stated before, you would repeat these steps until you get to the 8th layer. So Colin will do that for us, and we will be right back. And just like that, we have our 8 tall storage system of double chests. And this is for you, Bed Wars Central. Colin deliberately put these backwards to mess with your OCD. You are welcome. All right, let's go back to our bubble column, and we're going to align these items. Let me get my stuff back up. There we go. We're going to align these items to the center of the hoppers. So I am going to build a row of glass all the way until I am even with my exit, and I'm going to build my exit all the way until I'm even with my corner, just like that. I am going to place a chest down, and this is going to be where our items will make a turn towards our storage system. Go ahead and build this out all the way to make it too wide, even with our hoppers. And you don't have to do anything here because we still have a single item stream, but we are going to encase it with glass just until we get to the chest. Now, since we are going to only leave a 1 block gap, you probably are safe leaving this as glass, but again, we are going to use packed ice whenever we have a barrier. So Colin is going to put a block of packed ice, and then I'm going to grab the secret sauce. The secret sauce in this storage system are iron bars. Go ahead and build iron bars 7 out from the chest. So the chest we're about to waterlog, and water can flow a maximum distance of 8. So chest will be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to do the same thing on this side of the farm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which will be a total travel distance of 8. Colin is going to put a fence gate on top of the packed ice. Make sure that it is open. He's going to put a fence gate right where the water is ending. And then he's going to place more water going into our chest. Oh, we missed a block. There we go. Again, if there's a barrier, it's best practice to put packed ice. For a single block gap, it's probably not going to make a difference, but we're going to do it anyway. So that is entirely up to you. Your items will flow just fine without it, but we don't want to take chances because we're going to be producing a lot of pickles, and we want to get them into the storage system as fast as possible. Grab a water bucket and waterlog the chest like this. And the same thing with placing chests on chests. You do have to crouch. If not, you're just going to open the chest. So just crouch and waterlog that chest. What is going to happen is the items will flow through. They will hit that chest and be redirected, and they will be perfectly in line of both hoppers. Now we want to carry this on, and it is not a smart idea to glide items on top of hoppers because of the wonky hitbox right in the middle. So what we are going to do is we are going to place an iron bar directly in front of where our water ended, and we are going to run this 8 blocks from the end of our water. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. On the opposite set of hoppers, we're going to do the same thing except staggered. So Colin has placed the iron bars on top of our chest, and since it is not a solid block, it doesn't prevent you from opening the chest. You're going to crouch and place another bucket of water right on that hopper where the water ended, and now you have one continuous water stream that the items will be able to skate along and make it all the way, well, to the end of your water. So you got to do the same thing but stagger it once more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fall off, 7, and the 8th one is going to extend out, which will be okay. We will just try not to mess it up. End it like that so our water doesn't escape our farm. Place one last and final bucket of water, and now your farm is complete. Now, items that make it all the way to this last hopper will drop down this gap, but we will address that in a moment. Let's go ahead and test out this system. I'm going to grab a bunch of pickles and put them in my inventory just to make sure that the hoppers are able to collect them. And now I'm going to throw them in the water stream. All right, and they all went in, and as you can see, the hopper limit is increased in DonutSMP, so items travel quickly down. The hopper speed in DonutSMP currently, as of this video, is 12 items, as opposed to the vanilla speed of 1 item. What that means is if you were building this in your own world, whether it survival, hardcore, or maybe even in another server, if the hopper speed is different, the pickles will skate a lot further because the hoppers won't be able to pick up as many. The way the storage system works is the hopper below each hopper will search for the inventory of the hopper above it, and if it finds something, it will pull it down. So most of your pickles will fall to the bottom, and only the chests above it will fill up as soon as each lower chest is full. So all of the items will fill from the bottom and work their way up, with one exception. Because the top hoppers will pull items quickly, a lot of the items will fill up on your very top chest. So if you're selling all your pickles, be sure to check your top chests if only your bottom chests have pickles. And that is the storage system basics. We will be covering the shulker loader in another video, which we will be releasing very soon. And that is one of the reasons that we left so much room to work with over here, because we're going to craft some shulker boxes, we're going to load the pickles in the shulker boxes, and we're going to send the shulker boxes full of pickles into our existing storage system. So come back for that video. And lastly, on the end of the farm, if your pickles are going all the way to the end and they are escaping the farm, there's a couple things that you can do. You can place 2 hoppers just as kind of a final catch-all to direct it back into the farm. But if your pickles have made it this far, chances are your storage is full and you either need to sell your pickles or you would continue expanding in the same direction, following the same zigzag pattern. Alternatively, you could also simply cap off the end with, with a block to contain it within your farm. I just don't like the way that looks as much, but that's up to you. Just know that if you leave the bars as is, those pickles, once they reach the end, will fall down. So cap it off either with a couple hoppers or a row of solid blocks. Now that our storage system is complete and all of those pickles are flowing into the farm, like I said, we are going to make this 8 high, and as you can see, you can't reach the 8th chest. So to make it easier to reach, all you have to do is grab some trapdoors and count up 4 chests. Shift click and place the trapdoor in the uppermost part of the 4th chest. As you can see, I still have full access, and we're going to carry this down all the way to the end, just like this. And now you'll have a platform to walk on. A really easy way to get up and down on that platform is to get a building block, whatever building block you would like, and get some stairs. They can be, I guess, ladders. Ladders is what we're wanting. So just tower up next to your storage system and hop down and place your ladders all the way up, just like that. And now when you're wanting to collect the second part of your farm, you just walk across your trapdoors. And when you're ready to get down, you can either hop off if you have no wall behind you, or open that trapdoor and drop down. You can go a little bit taller if you wish, if you have more than just 8 levels, because you can reach the 5th one and even the 6th one semi-comfortably. Anything beyond 6, it's kind of difficult to know if you're hitting that 7th chest. So 4 is our recommendation. And you do this on all sides. Alright, now the farm is fully running and we are storing all of our pickles. As you can see, the pickles come in pretty quickly, and you can gauge kind of where your storage is at based on where they're disappearing. So we can see that these are filling up pretty quickly. And like I said, the top chest, because of the hopper speed and DonutSMP, will be filling up pretty quickly. But most of your pickles should be flowing to the bottom at a pretty steady pace. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial video. We know it was a little lengthy and we appreciate you being here at the end. This storage system is a basic chest-only storage system. Our next video will be covering how to use shulker loaders. Shulker loaders will be able to condense your storage space drastically. And if you are playing DonutSMP, it will help you immensely with selling your pickles much quicker than pulling them out of a chest. So if you are interested in that video, like, subscribe, ring that bell so you know when we post it. We hope to be posting it soon. If you are not a member of our Discord, the link will be in the description, as well with schematics and all the tutorials that we have posted so far. So come be a part of our community, and once again, thank you so much. I'm CD3 Daddy.
And I'm C3DG Minecraft.
And we'll see you next time.